My friend Mark Levin. How are you, sir?
I mean, look, I'm great. Thank you.
What is your take on what happened yesterday in the House?
Well, I've been very outspoken about this. I know many people want to get behind Matt Gaetz. I am not one of them. So I guess I'm a neocon rhino sellout. But that said...
Don't you hate this? Don't you hate this?
I put it on my business card. I don't have one, of course. Look, you and I have spent decades fighting these wars. This is one of the dumbest ass wars I've ever seen. Why? You got guys who claim to be conservatives. One of them, Nancy Mace, who votes against McCarthy because he wouldn't put an abortion bill on the floor. He wouldn't put a gun control bill on the floor. She's a complete head case. You got another guy, Andy Biggs, president of the state Senate in Arizona, who blocked Convention of States. He runs for Congress. He wins. A woman replaces him, and then Arizona becomes one of 20 states passing a resolution for Convention of States. That's where my head is, Convention of States. Then you got another guy, this guy from Tennessee that nobody ever heard of before. Why is he mad? He says because McCarthy criticized his religion when he spoke to him. By the way, I'm not a special pleader for McCarthy, and I'm not a special pleader for Gaetz. I call him as I see him, as do you. And so he says what he says. It doesn't make sense. You know why he voted against McCarthy? Because he chaired a subcommittee, and he said he worked really hard on this UFO issue, and he wanted to chair this committee on the UFOs, and Comer told him he's not in line to. And he got very angry. That's why he votes against McCarthy. Then we have Gaetz, who goes to the floor of the House, and I'm listening to him very, very carefully. This is very important. And he says, we didn't have regular order. He promised us 12 bills. I had Tom Massey on the show, who's a longtime libertarian conservative. He's the best of the best.
I
He's
love
the
him.
gold standard.
Love him.
He said, that's not what happened. You got to get these bills out of committee. The Democrats were larding up these things. It was the conservatives who killed them in committee. We couldn't get these bills to the floor. It had nothing to do with violating a promise or anything else. And he said on my show, you can't have it both ways. Regular order where whatever comes out of a committee goes to the floor, and at the same time, we need to cut the budget. He said the Democrats were playing us. Some of the 8 and others voted against it to kill it in committee so it couldn't get to the floor. So I'm listening to him, and I said, well, then, what's this 12 bill stuff that Gaetz... He said, Gaetz knows this. I said, okay. Then I listened myself to Gaetz say, we have $33 trillion debt. And I said on the air, I don't remember Gaetz speaking up against all this COVID spending. And Massey said he never did, not once. I said, well, that was like $3 trillion right there. They wanted to spend $6 trillion. Almost none of it went to, quote, unquote, COVID or the pandemic. It went to the teachers' unions and everything else.
Yep.
I am telling you that if you're going to blow up the House, blow it up for the right reasons. I worked in the Reagan administration. We shut the government down 8 times. We knew exactly why we were shutting it down. He wanted his MX missile system. They wouldn't give it to him. He wanted those medium-range nuclear weapons in Europe to defeat the Soviets, which is what happened. And he shut it until he got it. And he fought over water projects and everything else, very specific. We have a $33 trillion debt, so let's burn down Washington. Okay, great. So what are they going to do now?
That was my question.
Democrats control the budget now.
Yeah,
they control it.
I would love to see I'm not a fan of McCarthy. However, what is your plan now? You don't run away from something. You run toward something. They weren't running toward anything. Who are they running to? Yeah. Who's going to take it?
They ran towards the Squad and Hakeem Jeffries. Behind the scenes, they were working with them while complaining that McCarthy's working with the Democrats. I don't want anyone working with them for anything. 15% of the Democrats in the House are Marxists. They're outspoken, quote-unquote, democratic socialists. Why the hell are you working with the Progressive Caucus and going to whatever, Jamala, whatever, trying to coordinate with her? Why are you going to AOC like you have a real love lust for the woman. It's constant. And then you're raising money on it, and that's righteous. He's doing that for the people. He's sending out emails to put together lists to run for governor. Well, at least I'm not paid for by the special. Hey, bro, you have a 20-point Republican preference. You represent the Republican panhandle of Florida. And those are wonderful patriots. They're never going to vote for a Democrat. Then you got this guy Rosendale from Montana who ran for the Senate and lost last time and wants to run again. And he says he prayed for a very small Republican majority in the House so he and the others would have this control. Wow, that's constitutional. So 8 of you could run the House of Representatives with the Democrats? Let me tell you something. He made sure he won his election, but he didn't want enough people to come in where we had a big majority. You know, there's a lot of patriotic conservatives that lost in that midterm election that many of us voted for, like here in Northern Virginia. We had a great guy running. He lost by 1% in a purple, or actually more blue district, Loudoun County, Virginia, for God's sakes. And am I glad he lost? So Rosendale has more power? This guy's from Montana. He has nothing to do with me. And so you've got just so many weird things going on, and people need to scratch their heads and ask this. Is Chip Roy a rhino? Is Byron Donalds a rhino? Is Jim Jordan? Is every other member of the Freedom Caucus who voted against these guys, are they rhinos too? No. There's a difference between anarchy and constitutional conservatism. Read your Constitution, folks. There's no anarchy in there. There's no mobocracy. They opposed the mobocracy. They opposed a powerful central government. You know this. They set up a complex governing system. Our only hope right now is the House of Representatives with a tiny majority. The Senate Republicans have sold us out. And here's the bottom line. That last bill that they proposed was negotiated by Chip Roy and Byron Donalds with Ted Cruz and other conservative Republicans in the Senate. The plan was that this would pass. The greatest cut in a short-term CR, probably in American history, certainly in our lifetimes. 30% protecting the Defense Department, the Border Patrol, and veterans. That was it. So that would affect the FBI. It would affect the Department of Justice. It would affect all this stuff. And it was negotiated by the conservatives, get it to the Senate, so we have some leverage over Mitch McConnell, who's a real SOB, that guy, selling us out every time. 5 of them killed it. They said, no, shut the government down. They said, shut it down? This is better. We don't know what we'll get if we shut it down. Do this. And we have the support. We negotiated with the rhinos and everything else. They're with us. Let's do it. And they killed it. That's why I've had it with these people. And people shouldn't just follow them. Wow, they were really going to do. They're doing nothing. Zero. And I'll tell you one other thing. I would not negotiate with Hakeem Jeffries and these Democrat Marxists and the Squad and all the rest of them if you put a gun to my head. These people are destroying our country at every turn. They are the enemy, not adversaries. They are the enemy. And you're cutting deals with them. You're throwing in your vote with them, and then you're saying you're the true believer. You're cutting deals with the Democrat majority, and now we're going to have a bigger bloated budget. The border's going to remain open because part of that bill that they opposed had the strictest restrictions on the border ever passed by the House of Representatives. I read it. It's unbelievable. Would it pass the Senate? Well, they don't control the Senate. But it would have given our conservatives in the Senate something to negotiate with. Look at the House. Look what they passed, Mr. McConnell. We got to do something about these things. Now they have nothing. Zero. And so I would ask people who are defending and promoting these people, do you know who they are? How many of you know the guy from Tennessee? How many of you know the guy from Montana? How many of you really know about Nancy Mace, who's a complete head case out of South Carolina? So this is my problem. that we had good momentum going in. Forget about personalities, about McCarthy and Scalia. I don't care. We had good momentum going in, and now we're stuck. Everything is frozen. Everything. And we're attacking the most conservative body we have. If it's not conservative enough, let's fix it. The Senate's gone. The presidency's gone. The courts are gone. We have a 5-vote majority in the House who are doing more with that 5-vote majority than anybody else, and we just crippled it. I don't know, what the hell are we doing? That's my take, Glenn.
Well, the one thing I love about having talk show host on is I asked a question about, 11 minutes ago, and it was a great answer. So before we get to the book, how much time do you have, first of all? Can I keep you until about a quarter till?
Let me see. Actually, yes. I have a lifetime, my brother. How are you?
This is the opposite end of the clock for you, too. You're getting up and you're this fired up. I love it. So, Mark, first, let me ask you, do you see a plan? Is there a plan? Is there something that we're hoping for at this point?
No, I'd love to see one. When Gaetz is asked who would he accept, he starts naming liberal members of the House. I'm going, holy crap. I don't know what the plan is. I don't even know who would want to be Speaker at this point. Forget about McCarthy and so forth. Thinking, okay, you're still going to have these 8. And the way this works is, from a propaganda and demagoguery point of view, these guys are going to claim victory no matter what happens. So in other words, let's say they actually pick, let's say a Jim Jordan, who I love, who I think is terrific.
Yes.
And they're going to say, see, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have Jim Jordan. They've got it all planned out. And the fact of the matter is, one of the biggest supporters of the previous speaker was Jim Jordan. And he even gave a speech on the floor. Why? I asked him. He said, because he let us do what we needed to do. He never interfered. We would tell him what we need. He'd say, if you need a subpoena, whatever you need, I'll take care of it, and so forth and so on. The Rules Committee, there were more conservatives on the Rules Committee in the history of the House of Representatives. They had Tom Massey on there, Byron Donalds on there, and another conservative, Chip Roy, who had the power to block anything and to promote anything. And so he said he's been in the House for a while now. He said he came into the same time as McCarthy did. And he said, it's never been more open, period. And he said, it's so open that everybody with a grievance was thinking about voting against him. So that's how you get the Nancy Maces in there and the Rosendales and these other people in there. And that's why I think Chip Roy's biggest problem was sometimes we have to accept victory. When we have a 30% cut in your border security bill, which is the strongest the House has ever passed, this is a 30-day bill. Why the hell wouldn't we just pass it? I said, it beats me. That's why I'm not a politician. I can't figure you guys out, to be perfectly honest with you. But so
you said, Mark, that the Democratic Party, I think you said 16% are named Marxists. They are fine with being Democratic Socialist or Marxist.
That's correct.
How did this happen?
Well, here's the truth. The fact is, and that's the point of the book, you're very good. That's a good segue there.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say,
yeah, well.
Everything I know I learned from Glenn, man.
Yeah, right.
You are top shelf, baby.
All right.
Look, here's the bottom line with this book. The book explains that the Democrat Party has never accepted America's founding. It has never accepted its principles. We wouldn't have had a civil war but for the Democrat Party. The vast majority of Americans not only didn't own slaves, they never met slaves. Even in the South, a tiny percentage, big enough, don't get me wrong, but not the vast majority of the
Correct.
people in the South. They were too poor to own slaves. Slavery was an abomination. And who perpetuated it? The Democrat Party. Who was prepared to destroy the country to defend it? The Democrat Party, the party of the Confederacy. Look, we don't have enough time. The book's 400 pages long, but I'll tell you this. I decided to take on their icons, FDR.
Good for you.
the Kennedy family, Lyndon Johnson. People are going to learn things about these people they couldn't possibly have known because the Democrat Party writes our history, or I should say rewrites our history. So all the things the Democrat Party today condemns, and we condemn, back in our history, is their history. I mean, they did this to the country.